At the will reading, my billionaire grandmother left everyone millions of dollars. I got 25, not 25,000, not even a symbolic gesture. Just a single crumpled bill and a quarter, pushed across the mahogany table like loose change someone found in their pocket. My father leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Figures. Should have known she'd see you the same way I do." My sister covered her mouth, but I could see her shoulders shaking with silent laughter. My uncle muttered under his breath, "Charity case to the end." I said nothing. I just stared at the money in my hands, feeling the room shrink around me, the walls pressing in with judgment, because my grandmother had never been careless, not with business, not with people, not with anything. And this felt calculated. When I unfolded the $20 bill under the harsh fluorescent lights, I noticed something impossible, a tiny mark, so faint it could have been a printing error. But my grandmother once told me, "The most valuable things are always hidden in plain sight." 2 hours later, I stood in a private vault beneath an old credit union, sliding that 25 across a metal desk. The vault manager looked down at the money. Then her face went pale. "My name is Claire. And in my family, I was never the one people expected to matter. Not because I was irresponsible. Not because I was a failure. But because I wasn't supposed to exist. My father made that clear my entire life. Your mother died giving birth to you," he'd said more than once, usually when he was drinking. "Every time I look at you, I see what I lost." I was the reminder of his grief, turned into a person he couldn't escape. My older sister, Natalie, learned early how to be perfect. Straight A's, debate team captain, full scholarship to Yale. She was proof he could still create something good. I was proof he had lost everything that mattered. While Natalie collected awards and applause, I learned how to disappear into the background of family photos, how to make myself useful enough to justify existing, but never important enough to be noticed. My father, David, was a corporate lawyer. Sharp suits, expensive watch, the kind of man who corrected your grammar in casual conversation. My stepmother, Patricia, came into our lives when I was 6. She was kind at first, in that performative way people are kind to prove they're good people. But over time, I became the daughter she tolerated for my father's sake. Natalie was hers. I was the complication. My grandmother, Eleanor, was different. To the world, she was a self-made billionaire. Real estate empire. Hotels, commercial properties across 3 states. People straightened their posture when she walked into a room. Investors returned her calls within minutes. But to me, she was just Grandma L. The woman who drank Earl Grey tea at exactly 4 p.m. every day, who believed silence was a superpower most people were too afraid to use, who taught me that being underestimated was an advantage, not an insult. When her health started failing, everyone suddenly became very available. My father visited weekly. Never for long, always with his assistant scheduling the next meeting before he'd even sat down. "Mother, I just wanted to check in. I have depositions all week, but I wanted to see you." Patricia brought expensive flower arrangements that the nurses had to water because no one else did. Natalie came once, stood by the door, and gave a TED Talk-length speech about how proud Grandma must be of her. Then they all left. And the room always felt colder afterward. I stayed. Not because I thought it would earn me anything. Not because I wanted recognition. I stayed because someone had to. I helped her to the bathroom when the nurses were busy. I read her favorite mystery novels out loud when her eyesight failed. I listened to the same stories over and over about building her first property, about losing my grandfather, about raising my father as a single mother without correcting details she got wrong. One gray afternoon, while rain tapped against the hospital window, she reached for my hand. Her grip was weak but deliberate. "Hear that?" she whispered. "Hear what? The quiet," she said. "Most people fill every silence with noise because they're afraid of what they'll hear if they stop talking." She looked at me then. Really looked at me, the way you look at someone you're memorizing. "You're not afraid," she continued. "That's why you're still here." I swallowed hard. "Of course I am." She smiled faintly. "No, you're afraid of being erased. That's different. That means you're still fighting." I didn't know what to say. Another time, late at night when machines beeped steadily and the hallway lights dimmed, she said something that stayed with me. "Money doesn't reveal who people are," she murmured. "It just speeds up the reveal." I laughed softly. "You sound like you're planning something." Her eyes flickered with something unreadable. "Maybe I am. I thought it was the morphine talking. I didn't know she was already deciding who I would become. When she passed, she did it quietly. No dramatic final words, no cinematic goodbye. Just a slow exhale, her hand going limp in mine. And then, nothing. I sat there for 20 minutes, unable to move, thinking one thought on repeat: now I really am invisible. Because the one person who saw me, who never needed me to be louder or sharper or different, was gone. And I had no idea that even in death, my grandmother was still 3 steps ahead of everyone. If you think the 25 was an insult, wait until you hear what it actually unlocked. The funeral was exactly what my grandmother would have hated. Too much. Too loud. Too performative. The church was packed. Designer black dresses, Italian leather shoes. People who hadn't spoken to her in years suddenly had stories about how close they were. I stood in the back row, hands folded, watching my family perform grief like they'd rehearsed it. My father gave a eulogy about strength and legacy, his voice perfectly controlled. Patricia dabbed her eyes at camera-ready moments. Yes, someone was filming. Natalie posted a black and white photo on Instagram with a caption about the matriarch who built empires. She got 47,000 likes. No one asked me to speak, no one stood beside me. I heard whispers drifting through the crowd. I heard the estate is worth over $1 billion. David's probably getting a real estate portfolio. Natalie's set for life, she was always the favorite. Each sentence landed like a paper cut. At the cemetery, while they lowered the casket, something inside me cracked open. This was it. The end of the only relationship in my life that felt unconditional. I wanted to scream. I wanted someone, anyone, to notice I was breaking. Instead, I stood there in silence. Because silence was what I was good at. That evening, I was the one who went to my grandmother's house to start sorting her things. Not my father. Not Natalie. Me. The house smelled like jasmine and old paper. I moved through each room slowly, touching objects like they might vanish. Her reading glasses on the side table, the chair by the window where she'd sit every afternoon, the desk covered in ledgers and handwritten notes. I sat in that chair and finally let myself cry. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to release the pressure building in my chest. A week later, a thick envelope arrived. Expensive paper. Embossed lettering. Estate reading? Eleanor Morrison. The law firm's address was downtown. The date was circled in blue ink. My hands shook as I held it. I didn't expect anything. I'd trained myself not to hope. But a small, dangerous thought crept in. Maybe she remembered me. I folded the letter and set it down, unaware that in 5 days, everything I believed about my place in this family would be shattered in front of a room full of witnesses. The humiliation at the will reading was just the beginning. What I found in that 25 would change everything. The law office felt like a museum. All glass and steel and leather chairs positioned with geometric precision, like the room itself was reminding us who mattered and who didn't. I arrived early and took a seat near the back, making myself small by instinct. My family filed in one by one. My father walked straight to the front row like the seat had his name on it. Patricia followed, lips pressed thin. Natalie came in last, confident, already smiling like she knew how this would end. No one greeted me. No one asked how I was. The lawyer. Margaret Reeves cleared her throat and opened a leather portfolio. We're here to read the last will and testament of Eleanor Morrison. My heart began to pound. To David Morrison, Margaret read, a total inheritance of $8 million, plus the commercial property portfolio in Seattle. My father didn't smile, but satisfaction flickered in his eyes before he covered it with a solemn nod. To Patricia Morrison, $4 million. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath and squeezed my father's hand. To Natalie Morrison, $6 million, plus the vacation properties in Aspen and Martha's Vineyard. Natalie didn't even try to hide her grin. She looked directly at me, eyebrows raised, and mouthed, "Sorry." I stared at my lap. "Don't expect anything, you knew this." Margaret paused, turning the page. And to Claire Morrison. The room went silent. The sum of 25. For a moment, I thought I misheard. $25. Not 25,000. Not even a sentimental heirloom paired with it. Just 25. A laugh broke the silence. My sisters. "Oh my God," she whispered, not even trying to be quiet. "That's brutal." Someone else chuckled. I didn't look up to see who. My father smiled. Not cruelly, not openly. but with the quiet satisfaction of someone whose long-held belief had just been confirmed in public. "That tells you everything you need to know," he said lightly. "Mother always knew who had value and who didn't." Patricia looked away from me entirely, like I'd become invisible mid-sentence. I felt heat rise to my face then drain away, leaving me cold. I waited for more, some explanation, some letter, some final message. But Margaret simply slid a crumpled $20 bill and a quarter across the table. "Please sign here," she said, her tone professionally neutral. I picked up the money. It felt heavier than it should have. Around me the room buzzed softly. Whispers. Shifting chairs. The quiet relief of people who'd gotten exactly what they came for. No one spoke to me. No one asked if I was okay. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stared at the money in my hands. Because my grandmother had never been careless. And when I smoothed out the $20 bill under the overhead light, I saw it, a faint mark near the serial number. Almost invisible. Almost nothing. But I knew better. I folded the money carefully, slipped it into my pocket, and stood up. "I think we're done here," I said quietly. No one stopped me. As I walked toward the door, I heard Natalie laugh again behind me. But for the first time in my life, something inside me wasn't breaking. It was waking up. That 25 wasn't an insult. It was an invitation. And what I found next destroyed every lie my family had ever told about me. I didn't go home. I sat in my car in the parking garage, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. My breath fogged the windshield. 25. I pulled the money out again, smoothing the $20 bill on my lap. Most people would have crumpled it up in anger, tossed it, burned it, posted about it online. But Grandma L had taught me to look closer. "Details," she used to say, tapping her notebook. "That's where people hide the truth." I tilted the bill under the dim garage light. There it was again, a tiny line near the serial number. Not random, not accidental. And on the quarter, a scratch so precise it had to be intentional. My pulse quickened. I checked the serial number on the 20. 3 digits were faintly circled in pen so light I almost missed it. This wasn't wear and tear. Someone had marked this money deliberately. She did this, I thought suddenly. The idea sent chills through me. My grandmother was meticulous. She never left loose ends. If she wanted to leave me nothing, she wouldn't have bothered with 25. Unless the money wasn't the point. Unless it was the key. I drove across town without thinking, my hands tight on the wheel. The address came to me like muscle memory, the old credit union my grandmother had used for 40 years. The one she trusted when she trusted no one else. The lobby was quiet when I walked in. Marble floors, soft lighting. The smell of paper and furniture polish. It felt like stepping into a time capsule. I approached the front desk, heart pounding. "I need to speak with the vault manager," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's about my grandmother, Eleanor Morrison." The receptionist's face changed instantly. "One moment." A few minutes later, I was led into a secure back office. The woman behind the desk stood as I entered. Silver hair, sharp eyes, calm, unshakable presence. "I'm Ms. Brennan," she said. "How can I help you, Miss Morrison?" I didn't waste time. I placed the $20 bill and quarter on her desk. "These were left to me in my grandmother's will," I said. "And I think she marked them." Ms. Brennan frowned slightly, then picked up the money. At first, she looked polite but skeptical. Then her eyes narrowed. She turned the bill over. Checked the serial number. Held it up to the light. Then she froze. The color drained from her face so fast it startled me. "Where did you get these?" she asked, her voice suddenly careful. "You already know," I replied. "From Eleanor Morrison." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood, walked to the door and quietly locked it. Then she returned to her chair and looked at me with something I hadn't expected. Respect. "These markings," she said slowly, "are not random." My breath caught. "They're a verification code," she continued. "And if I'm correct, you're the only person who could have brought them here." I felt dizzy. "What does that mean?" Ms. Brennan folded her hands on the desk. "It means," she said, "your grandmother left something outside the will. Something no one else was meant to find." The room suddenly felt too small. "And the money?" I whispered. She glanced at the bills one more time. "The money," she said quietly, "was just the invitation." My grandmother's voice echoed in my mind. The most valuable things are always hidden in plain sight. And for the first time since the will reading, I understood. The real inheritance hadn't been announced in that cold office. It had been placed directly into my hands, disguised as an insult. What I found in that vault didn't just change my life, it exposed a secret my family had been hiding for 30 years. Ms. Brennan didn't rush me. She sat back, studying my face like she was deciding how much truth I could handle at once. Before we proceed, she said carefully, I need to confirm your identity beyond the standard verification. I nodded, hands trembling as I handed over my ID and answered security questions only I would know. She typed into her computer, then paused when the screen responded. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. It's exactly as she said, she murmured. As who said? I asked. Your grandmother. My heart began to race. Ms. Brennan stood and walked to a steel vault door set into the wall behind her. She entered a code, then another, moving with practiced precision. There's a private deposit here, she explained. Registered solely to Eleanor Morrison. It exists outside the will, outside probate, completely separate. My throat went dry. Why wasn't anyone else told? She looked at me, her gaze steady. Because your grandmother instructed us not to tell anyone, she said, unless they came with proof. She gestured to the $20 bill. These markings are part of a system she designed. She believed numbers and patterns reveal truth when words can lie. That sounded exactly like her. I followed Ms. Brennan down a quiet corridor. We stopped at a heavy door. She entered another code. The door opened with a soft click. Inside was a small room lined with deposit boxes. She unlocked one and slid it forward. I wasn't prepared. Neatly arranged, stock certificates, property deeds. Gold bars catching the light. Investment portfolios from companies I recognized. Bonds, account statements. I felt my knees weaken. This, I whispered. Approximately 47 million. Ms. Brennan finished calmly. Conservatively. I covered my mouth, tears blurring my vision. But it wasn't the money that broke me. It was the envelope resting on top, plain, cream-colored, my name in my grandmother's handwriting, Claire. My hands shook as I picked it up. She left that specifically for you, Ms. Brennan said softly. We were instructed never to open it. I nodded, barely able to breathe. We returned to the office. Once seated, I finally opened the envelope. The letter inside was folded with care. My dearest Claire, if you're reading this, it means you saw what others overlooked. That already tells me I was right about you. Tears slid down my cheeks. I gave you 25 not because that's what you're worth, but because I needed you to see with your own eyes how people react when they think you have nothing. Money doesn't change people, it just removes their excuses. I could hear her voice calm and certain. I wanted you to watch who smiled, who laughed, who stayed silent when you were humiliated. Your father has spent your entire life making you feel like an accident, a burden. The reason your mother died, he's wrong. My chest tightened painfully. You were the only one who stayed when there was nothing to gain. You didn't perform. You didn't demand. You simply cared. That is why I trust you with this. I pressed the letter to my chest, shoulders shaking. The money in that vault is not a reward, it's a responsibility. Protect yourself with it. Build a life where you never have to apologize for existing. And when they come, and they will remember this, love that depends on money was never love. Don't make yourself small again. All my love, Grandma L. The silence felt sacred. Ms. Brennan cleared her throat gently. Your grandmother also left legal instructions, she said. If you choose, we can establish an irrevocable trust immediately. Anonymous. Protect it. No one can touch it without your written consent. I took a deep breath. Outside, my family was probably celebrating. Planning, spending. They thought the story was over. But as I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope, I realized something. This wasn't the end. This was the moment everything truly began. My family thought they'd won. But when they found out what Grandma really left me, everything they believed about themselves shattered. They didn't give me much time. 4 days. That's how long it took for the truth to leak. I was still processing everything, still rereading Grandma's letter every night when my phone started ringing non-stop. Calls I ignored, texts I didn't open, voicemails piling up like digital landmines. I knew who it was. I just didn't expect them to show up. It was 8 p.m. when the pounding started on my apartment door. Not polite knocking. Pounding, like the door owed them something. I looked through the peephole. My father, Patricia, Natalie. All three standing there with expressions I recognized, concern mixed with entitlement. I took a slow breath and opened the door. "Claire," my father said immediately, stepping inside without invitation. "We need to talk, now." They walked in like they owned the place. My father's eyes scanned my small apartment. The secondhand furniture, the single bookshelf, the life I'd built on my own. "Still living here," he said. "Interesting choice." Patricia's voice was sugary sweet. "Honey, we're worried about you." Natalie leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "So, gonna tell us what you're hiding, or do we have to guess?" I finally spoke. "Why are you here?" My father didn't hesitate. "We know about the account," he said flatly. "The one at the credit union, the one you conveniently forgot to mention." The air tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about," he scoffed. "Don't insult me. Someone at the bank topped. We know it's close to 50 million. Patricia reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "this doesn't have to be ugly. We're family." Natalie laughed. "Yeah. Family. That thing you seem to have forgotten now that you're rich." Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, cleanly. "You laughed at me," I said, "at the will reading, do you remember?" Silence. "When I was handed 25, I continued, my voice steady but sharp, "did any of you defend me? Did anyone say it was wrong?" My father frowned. "That's not the point." "It is," I said. "It's exactly the point." Natalie rolled her eyes. "Fine. Grandma had her reasons. She always liked you better anyway." My chest tightened. "Liked me better?" I repeated. "She was the only person in this family who didn't treat me like I shouldn't exist." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "Claire, please. Your sister has student loans, your father has expenses. This money could help all of us." "There it is," I said quietly. My father's tone hardened. "We're not asking. We're telling you to do the right thing. Split it. Keep the peace." I felt my hands shake, but I kept my voice calm. "The right thing," I repeated. "According to who?" "According to blood," he snapped. I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder. "According to the law," I said, placing it on the table. They froze. "What's that?" Natalie asked. "Grandma's legal instructions," I replied. "The ones you didn't know about." I opened the folder and slid documents toward them. "This account is held in an irrevocable trust," I continued. "Separate from the will, fully legal, fully protected." My father's face darkened. "You planned this?" "No," I said. "She did," Patricia whispered. "Claire, don't do this to us." I met her eyes. "I'm not doing anything, I'm honoring her wishes." Natalie's voice turned sharp. "You think you're better than us now?" "No," I answered. "I think I'm done being treated like I'm worthless." My father straightened. "If you don't share, we'll challenge it legally." I nodded once. "You can try," I said. "But there's a clause in the will. Any legal challenge against me voids your entire inheritance. Immediately." The room went still. Natalie's smirk vanished. "That's a bluff." "It was read out loud," I said. "You were there, you just weren't listening." My father clenched his jaw. Patricia looked between us, panicking. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "I already am," I replied. They stood there, realizing they'd miscalculated everything. Finally, my father turned toward the door. "You'll regret this," he said coldly. "Maybe." But as the door closed behind them, the silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt like freedom. For the first time in my life, I wasn't bracing for the next blow. I was standing my ground. They thought cutting me off would break me. Instead, it set me free. And what happened next proved Grandma was right about everything. The silence after they left didn't end that night. It spread like frost. At first it was subtle. My phone stopped ringing. Group chats I was barely part of suddenly disappeared entirely. I was removed from the family calendar without explanation. Birthdays passed. Holidays came and went. No messages. No calls. Just nothing. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. Some nights I sat alone, staring at my phone, wondering if I'd made the right choice. If I'd been too harsh. if choosing myself meant choosing loneliness. Because no one talks about that part. They tell you to set boundaries, protect your peace, stand your ground. They don't tell you how empty it feels at first. My father didn't call. Natalie blocked me everywhere. Patricia sent one text, "I hope you're happy now." I wasn't happy. But I was something else. Safe. I focused on work, on routine, on keeping my life small and intentional, the way Grandma had despite everything she owned. I didn't buy a mansion, didn't change my lifestyle, didn't post anything online. The money stayed where it was, protected, invisible, untouchable. Because money had never been what I wanted. What I wanted was to stop apologizing for being alive. Weeks later, I stood in a law office finalizing the trust. The lawyer explained everything: protection, consent, control. "This ensures no one can pressure you," she said. "Not now, not ever." I nodded. Pressure had defined my entire childhood. This was the first time I felt free from it. Life moved forward quietly. I adopted a dog, a scruffy rescue named Pepper who didn't care about my last name or my bank account. Just wanted food, walks, and someone to sit with. I started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping people navigate legal systems designed to intimidate them. I saw myself in every woman who'd been told, family is family, while being destroyed from the inside. 1 year later, I stood at Grandma's grave for the first time since the funeral. I brought flowers, sat on the grass, talked to her like she could hear. "I think I finally understand," I said out loud, "why you did it the way you did." The wind rustled through the trees. "You weren't punishing me. You were protecting me." I wiped my eyes. "Thank you." My father tried to reach out once, 6 months after the confrontation, a single text, "We should talk." I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, "There's nothing left to say." He didn't respond. Natalie posted a vague Instagram story about cutting off toxic energy. I didn't react. Patricia sent a Christmas card with a photo of her and my father. No message inside. I recycled it. Sometimes people ask if I regret it. If I regret not sharing, not compromising, not keeping the peace. I don't. Because regret comes from acting against your truth, and for the first time in my life, I hadn't. Grandma didn't leave me 25 to humiliate me. She left it to show me who would laugh when I was brought low, who would stay silent, who would only reach for me when they needed something. And more importantly, she showed me who I was when I finally stopped asking permission to exist. The last thing she gave me wasn't money. It was clarity, the courage to say no, the strength to stand alone, and the freedom to build a life where love never had a price tag. When I look at Pepper now, sprawled on the couch without a care in the world, I understand the true inheritance. Not wealth, not revenge, not validation, peace. And that was worth more than every dollar she left behind.